The waiting room froze when Karen's voice cut through the air like glass shattering. "You're all incompetent. Do you know who I am?" She screamed, her face turning red, eyes blazing. The nurse behind the counter looked stunned, her hands trembling over the keyboard. How could one person cause this much chaos in a place meant for healing? People shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. A mother hushed her toddler. An older man coughed into his hand, muttering, "For God's sake." The whole atmosphere felt hijacked by this one woman's fury. Karen slammed her purse onto the counter with a thud, rattling the plastic clipboard stand. "Get me a real doctor, now," she demanded, her voice vibrating with a false authority. And then, almost unbelievably, she pulled out a laminated badge from her bag and held it up. "In fact, I am a doctor, and I know malpractice when I see it." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Was she serious? The nurse blinked, her voice tight. "Ma'am, you can't just—" But Karen cut her off with a loud, mocking laugh. "Oh, don't tell me what I can't do. Sweetie, I went to med school. I know procedures better than you ever will." The thing was, Karen wasn't a doctor. Not even close. She'd barely passed her undergrad degree years ago, and her badge was a fake she'd printed online. Yet here she was, strutting around like she owned the place, daring anyone to question her. A security guard hovered near the entrance, watching the scene unfold with wary eyes. But Karen wasn't slowing down. She leaned over the counter, almost nose to nose with the nurse. "You think I don't see the mistakes you're making? This place is a lawsuit waiting to happen." The nurse's lips trembled as she tried to hold back tears. My God, the cruelty in Karen's voice. It was cutting, sharp, like knives against glass. The kind that stays in your chest long after the sound fades. And then, here came the twist no one expected. A real doctor walked in. Dr. Alvarez, mid-40s, calm demeanor, the kind of presence that quiets a room without a single word. He set down his folder on the counter, raised one brow at Karen and simply asked, "Doctor, where did you do your residency?" The silence was deafening. Karen's mouth opened, closed, then opened again like a fish gasping for air. You could almost hear the gears in her head grinding. She forced out a laugh. "Oh, you wouldn't know the school. It's very prestigious, very exclusive." Dr. Alvarez didn't blink. His voice was steady, with a hint of steel. "Try me." Everyone leaned in. You could feel the tension tighten like a rubber band about to snap. Karen sputtered. Johns Hopkins." "Really?" Dr. Alvarez's tone sharpened. "Because I taught at Johns Hopkins last semester, and I don't recall your face anywhere." Boom. The words hit like a hammer. A murmur ran through the waiting room. The mother with the toddler gave a low whistle. The old man chuckled under his breath. Caught red-handed. Karen's cheeks flushed crimson. She doubled down, her voice louder, shriller. "You're lying. You're just trying to humiliate me because I dared to call out your staff." But her hands were shaking now. The fake badge trembled between her fingers. Her armor was cracking. The nurse, emboldened by the doctor's presence, finally stood straighter. "Ma'am, please step aside. You're disrupting patient care." Karen let out a scoff, but it sounded more like a whine this time. "Oh, don't you dare." Suddenly, the security guard moved forward. "Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to calm down or leave." Karen swung around, glaring. "Touch me and I'll have your job. I'll sue this entire hospital." But before she could spew another threat, Dr. Alvarez calmly reached for the badge she was still gripping. He held it up to the light, inspected it with a slow, deliberate pause, and then raised his voice for everyone to hear. "This is a forgery." The gasp was louder this time, a full-bodied, collective shock. Karen tried to snatch it back, But the guard was already dialing his radio. Code gray. Fraudulent impersonation. Possible threat. The waiting room buzzed with whispers. She's not a doctor. What the hell is wrong with her? Oh, she's in trouble now. Karen's eyes darted around the room, desperate for an ally. But all she found were cold stares, judgment, even disgust. No one was on her side. And then, it got worse. Because one of the patients waiting that day was an investigative journalist. A man named Chris Lowe, notebook in hand, who had been covering stories about medical fraud and abuse. His eyes lit up like he'd struck gold. He whispered to his partner, "This woman just tanked her entire life." Click. He took a photo. Karen noticed, shrieked, "Delete that," and lunged toward him. But the guard stepped in, holding her back. Her voice rose into a feral scream. "I am a doctor. I'm more qualified than any of you." But the spell was broken. No one believed her anymore. She was just noise. Within minutes, 2 uniformed police officers entered, their radios crackling. They spoke quietly with Dr. Alvarez, examined the fake badge, and then turned to Karen. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for impersonating a licensed medical professional." The sound of the handcuffs clicking shut, snap, echoed through the waiting room like justice itself. Karen thrashed, her voice breaking. "No, this is harassment. I know my rights. I'll sue every last one of you." But her words had lost all power. She was led away, her shrieks fading down the hallway until the door slammed shut behind her. The room exhaled, a collective sigh of relief. Patients shook their heads, muttering. The nurse sat down, finally wiping her tears, whispering, "Thank you, Dr. Alvarez." Yet the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, that journalist's article went viral. Fake Dr. Meltdown ends in arrest. It spread like wildfire. Videos from security cameras leaked, showing Karen's tantrum in crystal clarity. People shared it, mocked it, dissected it. Her neighbors recognized her, her coworkers, even her own family. And then the real hammer fell. Turns out Karen had actually worked as a medical assistant years ago, but had been caught stealing prescription pads and forging signatures. She'd been quietly stripped of her credentials back then. She wasn't just pretending. She was a repeat offender. The state board reopened her case. The hospital filed charges. The police investigated fraud. By the time the dust settled, Karen had lost everything. No job, no standing. Her name dragged through mud across every news outlet. She was facing fines, probation, and a permanent ban from working in any medical field again. The final, bitter twist. Her own sister, an actual licensed nurse, went on record to testify against her. She always wanted to be the smartest in the room, her sister said on camera, voice heavy with disappointment. But she never wanted to do the work. She thought she could just scream and fake her way to respect. Now look where it got her. The screen fades to black. A single sound echoes, the metallic click of handcuffs. And the words hang in the air like a verdict. Karma doesn't miss. So what do you think? Was Karen's downfall deserved? Or did it go too far? Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more unbelievable real-life stories. The first scream cut through the air like glass breaking. Then came the sound of fabric tearing. Sharp, final, like a wound opening. By the time I turned around, both Karen's sisters were standing there. One clutching a designer wedding dress like it was stolen treasure. The other holding scraps of ivory silk, grinning as if destruction were entertainment. "Oh my God, are you serious right now?" My voice shook, half rage, half disbelief. This wasn't a movie set. This was my best friend's wedding day. The bridal suite was glowing with sunlight. Champagne glasses still trembling on the vanity. Laughter just moments old. and suddenly the air reeked of entitlement and chaos. The taller sister, red-faced and wild-eyed, waved the custom gown in the air like she was showing off a trophy. It was just hanging there. She shrieked. Anyone could have taken it. Consider it saved. Saved. I could barely breathe. The dress had taken 8 months to design, with every stitch chosen by my best friend, Mara. It wasn't just fabric. It was her story, her dream, her moment, and this woman was gripping it like a yard sale find. The second sister, short, sharp, with that smug HOA queen smirk, stood by the vanity and held the ripped satin of the backup dress. She actually laughed. Oops. Guess this one wasn't made well anyway. My heart slammed in my chest. Are you kidding me? You think this is funny? Behind me, Mara let out a sound I'll never forget. Part gasp, part cry. Parte broken sob. Her hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide in horror. That was the dagger. Seeing her dreams shredded in real time, watching her joy collapse into panic. Give it back. Now. The tall Karen clutched the gown tighter. You don't own me. This club is public property today. We paid dues here long before you came around. Public property. Oh no. The wedding was being held at a private country club. Invitation only. These sisters weren't even invited. They had snuck in under the excuse of checking decor, since one of them had a minor role on the HOA's social committee. And now, they were acting like tyrants with silk in their claws. Security was already on edge. The head guard, Marcus, a former Marine with a calm but iron presence, had been watching from the hallway. He stepped in, slow and deliberate, his radio crackling at his side. Mom. Put the dress down. The tall Karen spun on him. Excuse me. Don't you dare talk to me like that. Do you even know who I am? The classic line. I could almost hear the invisible orchestra tuning up in the background. Mara's mother whispered, her voice shaking. That dress, it cost more than my car. The smug sister sneered. Well then, maybe you shouldn't flaunt it if you don't want people touching it. Some of us deserve nice things too, you know. The audacity. The sheer audacity. My fists curled at my sides. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His silence had weight. Last warning. Put down. And then, just when I thought they'd finally surrender, the tall one lunged toward the door, with the gown still in her arms. Gasps erupted around the room. Mara screamed. No. I bolted forward, but Marcus was faster. With one precise move, he blocked the exit, his arm like a steel bar. The gown slipped halfway, dangling in Karen's grip, and for a split second the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Then came the sound. That heart-stopping rip. RRRRIPPP. I swear the world tilted. The silk tore under her fist, a jagged wound running across the bodice. Mara collapsed into a chair, sobbing, her veil trembling in her hands. That's when Marcus dropped the mask of patience. He snapped his fingers and 2 more guards appeared. Escort them. Now. The smug sister's laugh turned shrill. You can't do this. We're members. Our family practically owns half this neighborhood. Security didn't argue. They each took an arm, ignoring the kicks and the wild thrashing. One heel snapped against the marble, clattering across the floor like a gavel-slamming judgment. People peeked from the hallway. Wedding guests, vendors, even children wide-eyed as if watching a villain dragged off stage. The taller Karen screeched. This isn't over. I'll sue every one of you. Lawsuit. Her echo followed down the hall, bouncing off the chandeliers like a warning. But the door shut. The echo cut and silence returned. Except it wasn't silence. It was breathing. Shaky. Uneven. The sound of lives rattled. Mara's father put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. His voice rough. Thank you. You saved today. But had he? The dress was ruined. The backup shredded. A bride sat trembling with mascara streaking her cheeks. I knelt by Mara. My chest ached. Hey, look at me. They don't win today. Not on your wedding. Her lips trembled. What am I supposed to wear now? That's when a twist slipped in from the corner. An older woman, quiet all this time, cleared her throat. She was a seamstress, hired only for final touch-ups, barely noticed in the chaos. She stepped forward, her eyes steady. I can fix it. The room froze. She placed gentle hands on the torn fabric, her fingers tracing the wound. I've worked miracles with worse. If you trust me, I'll make this gown stronger than before. You'll walk out not just a bride, but a survivor of their cruelty. Hope flickered in Mara's eyes. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The next hour blurred. Thread, needles, steady hands. The seamstress worked like she was weaving destiny back together. Every stitch seemed to erase a piece of Karen's malice. By the time she was done, the dress looked whole, different, but radiant. When Mara walked down the aisle, no one saw the damage. They saw a bride who had weathered sabotage and still shone. The gasps this time were not of horror, but awe. And the Karens. The fallout came swift. The club board banned them for life. Their homeowners association peers whispered with disgust. Even their own relatives refused to defend them after the video circulated. The ripping, the screams, the drag-out. It went viral within hours. One neighbor posted, "This is what entitlement looks like. Karma delivered in real time." And yet, late that night, a legal notice landed in the club's inbox. The sisters had filed, of course, a lawsuit claiming wrongful humiliation and physical assault. But here's the kicker: every camera angle, every witness, every thread told the opposite story. The lawsuit didn't bury anyone. It buried them. Their lies collapsed under the weight of their own arrogance. And as Mara danced under the lights, her patched dress glowing like armor, I realized something. Sometimes revenge isn't fire and fury. Sometimes it's stitches, patience, and the quiet satisfaction of watching karma do its slow, perfect work. So tell me, have you ever seen entitlement implode so spectacularly? Thank you for listening, and if you want more stories of justice and karma, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because the next lawsuit story might just blow your mind. The first time Karen screamed at my wife across the fence, I thought it was just noise. Just the usual HOA gossip drama. But the day she actually called the cops to have my wife arrested for trespassing on our own vineyard, that was the moment everything snapped. What she didn't know, what she couldn't even begin to imagine, was that my wife had just been sworn in as the county's new sheriff. It started with a bang, not the good kind. That morning the sun was beating down on the vineyard rows, the grapes still hanging heavy, dripping with morning dew like little jewels waiting to burst. My wife, Emily, walked along the vines with her leather boots crunching the gravel, clipboard in hand, hair tied back, sunglasses gleaming. She wasn't just checking on irrigation lines. She was already wearing the new badge under her jacket, though not a soul in this neighborhood knew it yet. Karen. Karen. She stormed out of her two-story faux Victorian like she owned the valley. You could practically hear her flip-flops slapping against the driveway as she stomped toward us. She had that scowl that could peel paint off a barn and a voice like a car alarm that never shuts up. And the moment she saw Emily walking between the vines, she shrieked, "Trespasser! You're not allowed in there. That's HOA land." I nearly choked. Aga walinge. Excuse me. That vineyard has been in Emily's family for 3 generations. And the paperwork was ironclad. But Karen, she was never one for facts. She thrived on power plays, intimidation, the thrill of making others bend to her will. And in her head, if the HOA said it was theirs, well, then it was gospel. Emily tried to keep it calm. Tried to keep her sheriff's composure even though she hadn't revealed that part of herself yet. Karen, this is my property. Our property. The HOA has no claim over the vineyard, she said, voice steady. But Karen was already dialing 911 on speakerphone like she was the star of some cheap reality show. Yes. Police. I need you to come right away. There's a woman trespassing. Possibly dangerous. Refuses to leave. She even gasped for effect, like she was seconds from fainting. I swear my heart stopped. This was beyond petty. This was dangerous. Who in their right mind calls cops on their neighbor for walking on their own land? And then, the sirens. The wail cut through the valley, echoing off the hills, making every bird scatter from the vines. My stomach dropped. This was it. Karen's game had reached its highest level. But little did she know, the game board had already shifted. 2 sheriff's cruisers rolled up the gravel drive. Dust clouds swirling. Deputies stepped out. Hats low. Hands near their belts, tension thick in the air. Karen was already waving her arms like a lunatic, pointing at Emily. That's her. That's the criminal. Arrest her. The deputies glanced at each other, confusion flickering across their faces. Emily stood tall, calm, her chin raised. She looked every bit the vineyard owner, and something more. Karen, red-faced and spitting words, jabbed her finger in Emily's direction. I demand you put her in cuffs this instant. She's violating HOA boundaries and she threatened me. I wanted to shout, to laugh, to shake her, but Emily just gave a small sigh. That quiet kind of exhale that means, enough. She unzipped her jacket slowly, deliberately, and the sunlight caught on the golden glint of her brand new sheriff's badge. The silence that fell in that moment. You could hear the grapes dropping from the vines. One of the deputies nearly choked. Sheriff, he said, voice cracking. Emily's lips curved into the tiniest smirk. That's right. Sheriff Emily Carter. And you're about to learn the truth. Karen froze. Her mouth hung open like a broken gate. Her eyes darted from Emily to the deputies to me. Back to Emily as if reality itself had betrayed her. Sheriff. No. This is a setup. She can't be. She's lying. She screeched, voice hitting that glass-shattering pitch. But the deputies. They saluted. Full respect. Sheriff Carter. One said firmly, nodding. Karen's face drained of color so fast I thought she'd collapse right there in the dirt. For the first time ever. She had no words. No comeback.
No smagues, Mirk.
Just the sound of her breathing sharp. Ragged like she was drowning in her own defeat. Emily finally spoke. Her tone steel. Karen, you've been harassing this neighborhood. Fabricating claims. Abusing 911. And now you try to have a sheriff arrested on her own land. That's obstruction. That's false reporting. You just dug your own grave. I swear the air itself shifted. You could almost hear fate slamming shut around Karen. She tried to stammer excuses, saying the HOA promised her authority, saying she was protecting community standards. But the deputies weren't having it. They pulled out their notepads, taking down every word, every lie she spilled. And then came the twist that nearly knocked me flat. One of the deputies, flipping through his phone, muttered, "We've had multiple complaints about you,
Mom.
calls about harassment, misuse of HOA power, even threats. Looks like this has been a long time coming." Karen's jaw fell open again. That's not true. They're making it up. You can't listen to them. I'm the HOA president. She said it like it was a crown, a title that placed her above the law itself. Emily raised her eyebrow. President of an HOA. Congratulations. But you don't outrank the sheriff. And you certainly don't outrank the law. That was it. That was the nail in the coffin. The deputies stepped closer. Not to cuff Emily, but to cuff Karen. The sound of those handcuffs snapping shut click. Click was the sweetest music I'd ever heard. Neighbors had gathered by then, peeking out from porches, whispering behind hedges. Phones came out, recording, capturing the queen bee of HO tyranny being led away like a common criminal. You could practically feel the neighborhood exhale, like a spell had finally broken. But the story didn't end with Karen in the back of that cruiser. Oh no, the fallout was just beginning. The HOA scrambled, desperate to distance themselves. But the rot was too deep. Investigations opened. Financial records were pulled. Turns out, Karen had been misusing HOA funds for years, landscaping that never happened. Community projects that existed only on paper. Fraud. Embezzlement. Lies stacked on lies. When the lawsuits started flying, it was like fireworks over the valley. Karen's name plastered on legal documents. Her empire crumbling piece by piece. The very people she bullied. They became the ones testifying against her. And through it all, Emily remained calm, resolute. Sheriff. Vineyard owner. The woman Karen had underestimated, mocked, and tried to destroy the very one who ended her reign. I'll never forget that final scene burned into my memory. Karen sitting in the courtroom, pale, broken, the smugness gone forever, and Emily standing at the back, badge gleaming, arms crossed, justice radiating from her like sunlight after a storm. It wasn't just karma. It wasn't just revenge. It was poetic justice written in bold letters across Karen's downfall. And me, I still walk those vineyard rows with Emily, the sheriff of this county, the protector of this land. Every crunch of gravel underfoot feels like a victory march. Every grape harvested like a reminder. No bully, no matter how loud, ever truly wins. Karen thought she could call the cops to destroy us. Instead, she handed us the greatest victory of our lives. And in the end, she called her own doom. Thank you for sticking through this wild ride. If you enjoyed this story of justice, karma, and HOA downfall, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Trust me, the next lawsuit story we share will make your jaw drop even harder. The first time I saw her smirking at the lake, I knew trouble was coming. She stood there in her oversized sunglasses, pointing at the water like it was some private inheritance she could just hand over. And when she actually called the cops on me, the guy who funds the city budget she depends on, I swear my blood boiled so loud I could hear it pounding in my ears. Karen. God. The way her name rolled off people's lips in the neighborhood. Always with a sigh, a shake of the head, or a whispered "watch out." This wasn't just a petty HOA complaint about weeds or paint colors. This was the city park lake. The one I fought to clean, restore, and keep open for everyone. And she had the audacity to gift it to her son, like some cheap backyard pool. Who even does that? I remember that day so clearly. The sun was high, bouncing off the surface of the lake in bright shards, and kids were laughing on the swings nearby. I just finished checking the new benches we'd installed when I saw Karen strutting across the grass, her son trailing behind with that smug grin, the kind that said "Mommy always wins." My jaw tightened. I could already hear the storm brewing. "Excuse me, what exactly do you think you're doing?" I called out, voice sharp enough to slice the humid air. Karen flipped her hair like she was on some stage. "Oh, just letting my son know he'll have a place to fish, boat, and do whatever he wants. We've decided this lake is part of our property." I literally laughed. Out loud. Couldn't help it. The absurdity was too much. "Your property. This is city land. Karen. This is a public park." Her eyes narrowed. "Not anymore. We're transferring it. The HOA board agrees." That's when I knew she'd crossed into insanity. Or maybe just arrogance so thick it choked her common sense. Because little did she know, Every HOA budget request, every tiny grant, every landscaping invoice ran across my desk at City Hall. She was claiming territory without realizing I held the keys to her kingdom. But before I could even lay that truth bomb, she pulled out her phone. That smug little click of her nails against the glass. She dialed the cops. Yes, officer. I need you at City Park Lake. There's a man trespassing. Being aggressive. Trespassing. Me. On my own project. My voice caught in my throat. Somewhere between disbelief and fury. Kids had stopped playing. Parents glanced over. Concerned. And when the sirens wailed faintly in the distance, I felt a pit open in my stomach. Not fear. No, it wasn't fear. It was the anger of knowing I had to stand there, calm, while she painted me as the villain. The officers arrived, their car crunching gravel. Karen ran to them, waving dramatically, her son fake pouting like some actor in a bad commercial. That's him. He's harassing us, trying to keep us off our own lake. I almost choked. My lake. Our city's lake. I stepped forward, hands raised, voice steady but hot with fury. Officers, my name is Daniel Ruiz. I'm the city budget director. This lake is public property. I personally oversee the funds that maintain it. She's lying. One of the cops squinted at me. The other side, like he already knew who the real problem was. Karen, of course, kept shrieking, waving her arms, trying to drown out reason with volume. The kind of shrill pitch that makes bystanders cover their ears. And then, the twist. The second officer leaned toward me and whispered, "Honestly, sir, we've had calls about her before." His tone carried a weight. "We know." That's when it clicked. This wasn't just me. Karen had been pulling her power tricks on everyone. Neighbors, city staff, even police. My chest loosened with something close to relief. Finally, I wasn't the only one sick of her games. Still, she kept raving. "Arrest him. He's dangerous." Her son chimed in with a fake sob. Pathetic. I turned, locking eyes with her. "Karen, you just made the biggest mistake of your life." My voice dropped, almost a growl. "You just declared war on the man who signs off on every dime of your HOA's funding." Her face froze, color draining. A stutter escaped her lips. Wait. What?" The cops exchanged a glance. Parents around us murmured. The tide was shifting, and she could feel it. That night, I sat at my desk in City Hall. Papers spread out like a battlefield. Every HOA request for the past 2 years. New pool tiles, landscaping contracts, maintenance schedules, all funded through grants I approved. I traced the signatures with my pen. Tapping, tapping, each stroke of ink like a war drum. She thought she could steal my lake. Fine. Let her HOA starve. I filed motions, froze budgets, flagged mismanagement concerns. Oh, the sweet sound of a budget freeze letter printing from the machine. It was the click of destiny. Days later, the fallout began. Contractors pulled out. Pool repairs halted. Trash piled up at their community park. Residents stormed the HOA meetings, voices rising in angry waves. And Karen, queen of fake smiles, was drowning in it. But she wasn't done yet. No. Karen doubled down. She marched into City Hall, heels clicking like gunshots, and slammed her manicured hands on my counter. "You can't do this," she hissed. "We'll sue." I leaned back, folding my arms. "On what grounds?" "You called the police on a city official, tried to seize public land, and fabricated claims. You want to bring that into court." I leaned closer. "Please, do it." Her mouth opened, closed. No sound. Just that choking silence of a woman who realized her empire was made of sand. But fate wasn't done dealing her blows. One evening, I got a call from a contractor. Apparently, her gifted lake plan wasn't just arrogance. It was corruption. She tried to arrange under-the-table deals to sell lake access permits to her son's company. It was fraud. Pure fraud. I sat back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, laughter bubbling up. Oh, Karen, you've buried yourself. The next HOA meeting was chaos. I didn't even need to show up. Residents screamed about lost amenities, wasted dues, police reports, fraud allegations. Her son slunk out the back, face pale, while Karen tried to shout over the fury. It's not my fault. It's the city. It's him. And right then, the cops arrived again. This time not for me. The same officers stepped in, their voices cutting through the storm. Ma'am, we need to speak with you about fraudulent activity and misuse of HOA funds. You should have seen her face. That perfect mask shattered into panic. Sweat, stammering, gasps filled the room. Her reign was over. I walked past the crowd later that night, the cool breeze off the lake brushing my face. Families were back at the park, kids laughing again, the water shimmering under the moon. I let out a long sigh, shoulders finally easing. Justice. Sweet, raw justice. But deep inside, I wondered, how many more Karens were out there? How many others thought they could bully and seize what wasn't theirs, until someone like me pushed back? The fight wasn't just about a lake. It was about power, about arrogance meeting its reckoning. And this reckoning had a name: lawsuit. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed watching Karen's downfall, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel, because the next lawsuit story will be even wilder.